Let the heat begin, baby.
Here we are. Of course, it's like the fucking last heat wave of summer too.
I know. It's the craziest heat wave of the summer, which is why I'm so happy to have you out. Thank you for coming out, Andrew. Appreciate you.
Speaking of heat waves,
I know, dude.
the hottest guest in town.
Speaking of heat waves, the hottest guest in town just graced the Gold Couch Studio Paralo couch.
Hello, Gordy. It's truly a pleasure.
What's up? No, for real. Thank you for coming. And thank you for the listeners and viewers don't know this, but this is like our second take at doing this episode.
Yeah.
Which, isn't always ideal, but I'm happy about it right now.
Well, I think, one, I'm just so stoked that you're doing a pod.
Yeah.
And I remember when I started mine, it was like so scary. Scary is not the right word, but like there's a lot of factors and there's a lot of things you have to figure out. So I'm always so hyped to be the friend that's like, dude, come like run a dummy episode. I don't care. Have everything fail. Like I get it so much that like when you hit me up, like that was a great conversation, but I was like, we'll have it again. Like we're homies. Like we'll always have a good conversation.
Totally.
And I so spiritually understand the feeling of technical errors and things. So like, let's just run it again.
You're like, okay, like totally get it.
Yeah.
I appreciate that because, and actually the homie Hunter who was on here the other day, like there was like 2 different times where I was like, Hunter, I'm really sorry. I just need to make sure this camera's rolling.
Yeah.
I just have to. I'm so sorry. And he's like, no, it's all good, dude. It's all good. Like no sweat. Like I totally get it.
I think that actually becomes fun. Like my podcast editor, Deanna, is a mutual friend and you guys
probably our podcast,
exactly. Yeah.
Hi,
Deanna.
Hi, Deanna.
But so now I've like, that's become like the running joke of the podcast is like, there will be times where it's like, wait, we should pause. And then I'll be like, wait, hold up, Deanna. Or I'll say like, if we reference a thing, I'll be like, Deanna, maybe we cut into this here. So like, I kind of like adding to the story of it. So instead of like trying to hide the edits, it's like, you were saying like your building might call you.
Right.
Like, fuck it, hold up. Yeah, we'll just pause for the call. Yep.
Totally.
Like,
or I'll take it on air because it's like, and actually, and I'm going to use this as a segue. Because you were asking, well, we were just talking before.
Oh, yeah. And we paused a really good conversation.
Yeah, because we were like talking some tech shit, some nerd shit.
Yeah.
But you had just started to ask me like, is there any format here? Like what, do you
like, what do you want to cover on this episode?
All that type of stuff. And when I had talked to my friend Alex, who's like this like marketing wizard, he like is like after high school went full blown marketing agency. I don't know too much about his like specific company, but he's super sharp, super smart, just like a really good dude. And also on the complete futuristic end of marketing, his whole thing is kind of trying to get back to the soul of listening to the artist over the numbers. So right now, digital marketing is all about where are the numbers.
It's really shit. Yeah.
So it's like, 70% of your sales is coming from this. So you're going to have to cut out all this stuff because it's not contributing to your numbers. Or people said they want to see dogs. They don't want to see jet planes or whatever.
You're catering to the algorithm.
Exactly.
That's all.
That's
so
all
there's no heart and soul to it.
No
and
heart
he's like,
and soul.
fuck this.
Yeah. Because it's like basically like you can buy customers now. Customer acquisition cost. Right.
Yeah, you really could
you can
probably metric it out where you could say this amount of spend targeting with this and this media, like statistically you'll get this.
These amounts of units of our thing. Whatever it is, right?
So he did that for too long.
So,
like,
he's in it currently, and he's just like, I'm in this because this is my career and this is what I do. I can't really change certain elements of this, but I'm so fascinated with what you're doing. And so we have these like monthly conversations or bi-monthly where he's like, I'm just so excited for this because it really feels to me like this is the future. Like what you're doing is the future, and I want to help you see it through.
Really?
And from the perspective of like a really hardcore digital marketing guru that's basically whole life is sort of based around following the numbers, following the surveys, following the metrics, answering to people and to clients that only respond to stuff like that.
Yeah.
And saying, he goes, I wish I had the platform like this to talk about what we're talking about here. Cause he's like, I just think it's a future. You're like a incredible artist. Like, that's the selling point. It's not all these silly metrics. He's like, there's room for both of these. He's like, you'll never beat a computer in a lot of ways, but he's like, the whole creative side of it can't be directly tied to this. Right.
Yeah. You know what's really interesting with that?
Mm-hmm.
And I always talk to you about this, and I love, like, you are a fucking artist through and through. Like, I come in here and it's like right there, you have a full on setup where you can make music, and then you have your photo studio, and then you're drawing, and like you look at this space and it's like, you're such an artist. You have all this creative energy. You're talking about how you have to take a run in the middle of the day to channel it. Like, and I love it. I think of myself in this weird in between where I definitely have that artist view and like that desire for like pure creativity and making shit. Yet I am like relatively analytical and understand like the business side of things.
Right.
But when I think about podcasts, and it's so like validating to hear what he's saying, because in all reality, there's a lot of stuff that I've done in my life and my career that's just intuition. That's just like, and I think you and I would probably agree and bond on that. 100%. And like on paper, it doesn't make sense to have a podcast right now. Like fucking everyone has a podcast.
Yeah.
Like, are we really that unique in these conversations?
The podcast to gun ratio is very close.
Holy fuck, dude.
just saying.
Facts.
The head count is scary.
Very high.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, like it's if you were from a numbers, statistics, ROI standpoint to say, should I do a podcast or are these numbers worth it? Like, no.
Right.
But I find it like super meaningful, and intuition just tells me that I needed to start it and that I have to keep going even when I want numbers to be higher or whatever.
Right.
So hearing somebody like that say like, no, this is sick and just do it authentically.
Yeah, just go.
Is really validating.
Totally. And like part of his Amazon, I think.
Here we
part
are.
Of here we are, right? Part of what I was going to use to bring it back around was last time you were in here.
Yeah.
We were talking about, I don't remember. I believe it was on camera. We were talking about, you're like, well, how do you say this studio name? What do you call this again? And I was like, oh, you can say it however you want. I made up the word. And you're like, I don't like that. Like, I want it to have a pronunciation. And I started thinking about that, and I was like, fuck, you know what? You're right. And like, why am I so like loosey noodle about this? Like, it can have a pronunciation, and I can tell people, yes, it's Studio Paralo.
I was going to say Paralo. Okay,
straight
good.
up. You know what I mean? And not fuck around with it. So I talked to Alex about this, and he's like, because I was like, man, some days I don't even like the name of this place. Like, some days I would just rename it. Like, it's almost a placeholder for me. Like, I'm not sure. Like, it's more about the dream. It's less about the name. I was like, I'm almost convinced that if I were to be given infinite time, I would, or infinite words or whatever it is, there was no word in the English language that I'll land on that I'll be truly happy with.
Wow.
And he was like, okay. He's like, talk about that. He's like, why can't things be like flexible? Like, why can't we like society right now and everything is pushing towards this idea of like everything has to be dialed. It has to be perfect. Yeah. You have to have your marketing shit figured out, your SEO, your web address, like your go plan. Like everything has to be sorted out.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, this is one of those rare instances for me where I'm like, he's like, why don't you just talk about this with your guests? He's like, ask them, what do you think this is?
Yeah.
Because we were even talking about like, what do I do here?
Right.
I don't even know what the fuck to call it.
This.
Creative agency? Don't know. Yeah. Maybe. I'm not really an agency though. Creative studio? Closer. Still sounds a little loosey-goosey. Yeah. You know? So like, I was like, what about experimental studio? And he's like, that's like more, like you're getting there.
Yeah.
Like you can go with that. But he's like, you should be able to workshop this. Yeah. And like, what if the podcast was a place to just workshop stuff like that and to be like open to it being in flux and being in a state of flux and a state of change.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
well, it's interesting. Like before we started recording, like I look around and I'm sure with the camera angles, you can see a decent amount of it on camera, but like I showed you, I was like, you ever do the iPhone test? Yeah. Where you just set your iPhone video camera on wide and you just look around and you see it. And I'm like, what you have created here is beautiful. And it would be hard for me to define, but what I see, like objectively, is just a place where a creative can fucking create anything.
Right.
It's like the ultimate playground for making shit.
Yes.
Which, like, I don't know if you have to name it past that.
Right.
But I respect that so much. And I think, like, sometimes I'll have these moments where I'll look at my MacBook and I'll be like, this fucking thing, like, this is what has funded my home, the roof above my head. Like, I've been able to, like, make a valuable product or service or communicate with others and solve problems on this little fucking computer. And like, I look around here and it's maybe crippling at times, but I don't know what you couldn't make here.
Totally.
Like
it's
that's
like it's
so
like a
cool.
true fertile ground for anything.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
and that's like okay, and that it's sort of okay for things to be open format. It's okay for things not to just be like so dialed, you know? So like the last guest I did, because we're retroactive, this will be the first episode, but I recorded episode 2 before this, was like, I had a few things I wanted to talk to him about just because like, you know, I was just trying to catch up with his current events and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I could have done that with you too. And I think there's some value there.
Yeah.
But I joked about like saying Joe Rogan, same amount of podcast being like saying Candyman or something. Like, I don't know if that's like
he comes out and just fucking like hits you with some super hot take. We say his name 3 times. He's on the couch.
He's like, Alpha Brain.
Have you ever tried hiking upside down on fucking LSD? You're like, oh no, Joe Rogan, please. Please, we were just trying to catch up as homies.
Oh my God, I'm sorry, Joe Rogan. But when I was around looking at other podcasts, how are people doing it? You know, what do I want this to be? You know, and kind of reflecting on that idea of it being open format, I was like, I love the way that he does it, because you just sort of like tip in mid-convo, essentially, whenever they start. There's a tiny thing, but he's never like giving this like long-winded intro. He's just kind of like, let's just talk. You know, like you obviously have a lot of great things to say here. Let's get into it. And like it unfolds as you listen. And obviously there's like descriptions and other ways you can find out about the person. But I liked that. And I kind of liked the informality and like the idea of like being able to have people come in here and just sit down and talk. Like, you know, and almost like even when Hunter was on, I was like, oh, like this is like a therapy couch. Like look at these fucking like pillows. This is like the entrepreneurial, like creative therapy couch. Like this is where we go to talk about all the stuff that, you know, doesn't get any airtime when we're, you know, talking about other stuff.
It is nice too to just like have a minute. Like I feel like every time I finish recording a podcast, it's just like this moment of an hour without looking at your phone and just being present and just chopping it up. And it, like whatever it is you do talk about, it doesn't, it almost doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's just like a real conversation. We kind of lose the time. Like we forget about how good that is.
Totally.
So I feel you on that.
Yeah. And that was kind of like what came out of our first one is like the first 30 minutes, which I kind of want to like circle back because you covered a lot of stuff that I think like a part of the coolness of this episode is that like it's like a dual episode.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah,
and like so I guess if anybody's listening on Where Are All My Friends, our plan is to help launch this. We'll just dual air it. So this will be an episode on Where Are All My Friends, and everyone's been asking for an Andrew episode. And like what better place to do it?
Here we fucking are.
Yeah.
You know, halfway through you were like, I like it when we're having a conversation. I don't love it when it's just like, so where did you grow up?
Yeah.
How did that affect you?
Right. When you're looking to hit the structure too much and you're not open to a real conversation, you can miss some really beautiful moments.
And let the conversation just like spread out like a river and do what it wants to do.
I will say I learned, I'm constantly reading, I'm always studying, and I'm always, because like both, you know, like you're talking about like how you fixed that Canon camera to record off of a Ninja and how you can run that camera. And like, there is an element of us trying to master our technical craft. And I love that, like that constant pursuit of perfection. And for me, I like to study like journalists and really great podcasters. So there was a book that I read called Make Noise. And it was basically a dude, I won't remember the name, but somebody who had helped early in NPR and talking about like the journalism and all of that and how they like tricks they used. And something that really stuck with me was it doesn't matter like if you're having like a specific guided interview or just a conversation, but helping add like texture to a conversation. Like audio is actually such a beautiful format and it kind of lets your imagination go. And like, yeah, there's a video component where like you can see us talking, but like as the interviewer, when you're talking to your guest, finding those moments and asking like really basic questions of if they say something and it's really meaningful to them, but you maybe don't understand it, you say like, oh, why was that so huge for you? And then you get the answer that you want. Right. Or like the best example of this that I did was I had Aaron Gillespie from Under Oath on the podcast. Oh, wow. And he was telling me about recording drums in this studio. And it was like very, like I could tell he loved it, but I wasn't there. And I was interested. I was so fascinated, but I was like, I want to know more. So I kind of, as the proxy, as the listener that's like, well, wait, I want it, tell me. I would just ask questions like, wait, like, so like, what was it like to open the door? What was it like? You walk up these stairs, it's warm, it's humid, it's about this big. Where's everyone else sitting? And like, as people explain those details, you get lost in these stories and these conversations. And I obsess over finding those in the podcast now.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not so much like, tell me where you're from. Oh, cool. Like I was born in Florida, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, cool, great. But like, what do you remember about Florida? Like those warm summer nights where you can feel the humidity in a good way and you hear the crickets and like the texture to it. I'm obsessed with.
I love that because it takes away all of this like, and actually just side note, I think that this is so informative. Like, you know, people are asking for an Andrew episode. Like, I feel like one of your greatest passions, aside from making the illest cars ever, is podcasting.
I love it.
And like this type of stuff for anybody else who's interested in podcasting is like super helpful. I mean, obviously for me, like I'm a fucking rookie.
Right.
And it's like,
I find myself natural as a rookie.
Yeah. Well, thank you. But I find myself like in those cases of like, okay, so this happened. Tell me more about that. It's like, that's a dry question. It's like, what do you like? The best questions aren't the ones that were written down. It's like the ones that you just like you said, it's like in your mind, you're like, oh, I'd really like to know more about that. Like, So ask him more about that.
Right. Like you stop treating it like some formal interview. Like those are so boring. And then like the reason why this is special, the reason it's so comfortable, the reason that I think you are going to have such a great show is you're just a good hang. Like conversation with you is fun. So I think that's a weird thing you have to kind of break out of when you're a podcast host or when you're doing a podcast is you feel a weird obligation or like you feel like the right thing to do is to be the host.
Right.
And then like to
only
be formal
listen and be like, well, okay, yes.
But the more you are a human and the more you just have a real conversation, people can feel that. So, and that's why I'm so excited for you and why I'm like, you need to do this.
Yes. Okay. That's really rad, man. Like I was talking to a few people about it and they were like, oh yeah, I always thought you were going to do that. Like it was almost like everyone was like, I was waiting for that to happen.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm like, damn, yeah, that's cool. And honestly, like I think you probably can speak to this better than I can, but it's like when I write or when I make art, there's this, I don't have the word for it yet. I've been looking for it for years, but I'll call it recursive process, cathartic.
Yeah.
It's a bounce back.
Yes.
So write something, read it. There's something about that, taking it out of here, putting it here, and then looking at it. Something completely different than the experience of writing it.
Yes.
Or even reading it like in 3 weeks or something. There's something about doing it and then immediately like taking it back in that really tells you so much about yourself.
Whoa.
You know what I mean? You can only get so close to what's really in here. And like to me, that's a very, very like specific main line in.
Yeah.
You know, and so something like this, I was really hoping would sort of start to open my eyes about maybe things about myself that I didn't.
You're going to hear how many times you use filler words and you'll hate that.
I know I've already actually noticed it and I've already been like quieting.
It's something
word.
that like I accepted, I noticed it, and then I was just like, fuck it.
I mean,
I say like
I'll
a
mute,
lot.
I'll mute the mic if I have to or something. But yeah, no, it is definitely like that too. Efficiency of language.
Fucking for real.
I want to know, speaking of format, I want to go back because you took me back last time.
Yeah.
No one got to actually hear the true Andrew story. Now we have one take under our belt.
Let's do it.
So we actually like know, like what's to come and I won't treat it like a shitty interview.
Well, I think that's such a funny one too, is like it's kind of weird. It's really good for guests, I think, to learn how to tell their story. Cause I kind of was like, damn, am I like, it's like,
right.
If you don't think about it, it's kind of hard to tell your story with every chapter in it all the time. So I'm not upset about the redo either. Cause I'm like, damn, because
there's stuff that maybe you forgot, but then there's other stuff that you're like, I could have omitted that or like not gone in deep or whatever it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think every interview will be a little different. Like, you'll probably be on more podcasts now as you do it. And like, I think that every interview is its own dynamic way of our friendship is going to yield a specific part of my story because that's like what we'll naturally talk about.
Totally.
So I think that that's something of, you don't have to cover all of it. Right.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And it's kind of like when you started talking about podcasting and like just things that you've been learning, like I started thinking like, how has your life up to this point informed the way that you're going about podcasting? How has it informed the way that you were just describing how to find great conversation? I know that you've done work with bands in the past because we've had our paths cross
Yeah.
via, pop punk rock shit, right? But it's like, I would imagine the amount of interpersonal work that you did with all these artists over your life has
Yeah.
really informed.
Well, that's actually maybe a great place to start is I've always been obsessed with people.
Yeah.
That's like the through line is I'm so fascinated by interesting people. You know, granted, you'll meet some people and you're like, oh, cool, great to meet you, whatever. And there's not really that much compelling, but you're actually a great example is I'll meet certain people where I'm like, there's just something different about this person. I've always felt that with artists. And I think that that's been a thing for a very young age is I've met these really compelling people and I've been fascinated. I've wanted to learn more. And the podcast is just such like a natural way to do that.
Right.
But going back, so I was born in Florida. I love Florida. I grew up there.
What city?
Born in Miami, but moved to like Tampa, Clearwater, St. Pete area.
Love that area.
Pretty early. Like
I've heard that Miami. Oh, okay. So I was like, my friend's from Miami, and she was like, "Oh yeah, Miami's like just a totally different place. It's like almost not Florida."
It's wild. And like, going back now as an adult, I'm like, I can't believe I was born here. Like, I don't remember it, but like it is very different. But yeah, I grew up there and I was like relatively like sheltered, but not in a bad way. Like I was just like pretty regular. The first like where I started to like find my things was probably the first thing was skateboarding. Like I didn't care about like organized sports and I went to a pretty small school, but like when I found skateboarding, I was like, oh, this is it.
Yes.
And then like getting the CCS catalogs and seeing all the boards and being obsessed with the graphics and then finding like 411 VM videos and then finding music that I had never heard of. And
through the videos.
Oh my God. Yeah. Skateboarding was a huge, very important piece of my life.
Oh yeah.
And I'd always loved cars too. So those were the things like as a young kid, that's like what I spent my time and attention on outside of like the basic stuff that every kid does growing up in school. But like the things that I loved was that. I think I got like my first real skateboard when I was like 13 and I think we all probably dream of going pro and all that, but I just didn't. Like I was okay,
dude,
but
that's
I
how I was too. I feel like we talked about this where I was like, to clear the air, I was never gnarly.
Yeah.
I was okay. I was good enough to skate with my friends.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. But there was always the kid that like did the tray flip better or that had like more stairs on the gaps and all that. And you're just like,
They're like, oh, I'll try to probably kick flip this. I'm like, I want to ollie it. If
like ollieing this would be
I would like
the accomplishment of a
quit
year.
Skating.
Yeah. But yeah, so like that was like my early interest. And then cars. I was really into cars from an early age, like the tuner cars, like Honda scene and all that. Like I was that kid.
Yes.
So that was like my life. The interesting variable though was I dropped out of high school to get my GED. I was going to like a private high school and I could tell that it was weird because I always had a roof over my head. I didn't grow up poor, but my parents just never like gave me anything.
Yeah.
It was like, just like middle class type, whatever. But I could tell that they wanted the best for me. So they paid for this private school and I just didn't feel like there was value in it. Even at that young age, I was like, you shouldn't be paying for this.
Yeah, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. 16, it's not like I was doing bad in school. I was like fine. So I convinced them to let me get my GED, dropped out, and then I got a job because I wanted to work so I could buy a car because they weren't going to like let me get a car.
Right.
So I finished school early, get the car, like get the job, do that, and then kind of was just like figuring things out. Didn't really know what I was going to do. Figured I'd go to college and ended up again, like paying for my own college because I didn't have like the school that I went, whatever, dumb shit. And I do that and like pretty quickly, like again, pretty self-aware. I'm like in my first semester and I'm like, I was studying photography, web design, and like general gen ed.
Yeah.
Figured I'd like start a web design business or something. And pretty early in, I was like, I could Google this. Like, this is like, I don't think I need to pay for this.
What
and it
year
hit
is this,
different.
by the way?
2008.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is like literally like heyday of YouTube.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like we were learning like Dreamweaver and specific things, but like the books that we would study would be like antiquated already. Like they were the old ones.
100%.
Like pretty quickly in, I was like, I can Google this, and I was paying for it. Like I was paying for my semesters. So like the value of $1 was very real.
Yeah.
And I was like,
$200 for this course.
Yeah. I was like, YouTube is free.
Yeah.
So then the crazy thing that happened was my friends started a band and I wasn't that into music. It was more skateboarding and cars. I always liked music. Like I found Blink-182 and finding music through like 411 VM and all that. Like I loved music.
What was your first Blink record that you got into?
It was Enema.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I went back to Dude Ranch.
Yeah, Dude Ranch.
But Enema into Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, like that era of like those CDs coming out in real time.
Those two in real time was...
Well, actually, Enema wasn't real time for me. Take Off Your Pants and Jacket was, and then Self-Titled. Those were the two where like real time. I was like, I can't believe I get to get this. Yeah. So I was like finding music. I loved music like that. But then my friends started a band and I had a job. The job that I got that got me my car was in dental sales consulting. Oh. And it was like my friend's parents' company. And they like pretty quickly like put me on the phones as like a cold caller. And I think I was so young that I didn't realize how fucking insane that was.
Yeah, like you were like, okay, you want me to do what? Like, yeah, sure.
Dude, I was calling dentist's office, cold calling dentist's office, like they had responded to like a promotional offer. We had this like $1,500 seminar that would help them get new patients, like with marketing. And it was actually like a great service and a great company. So I didn't feel bad like trying to sell it.
Right.
But I also didn't there was no fear of that.
Right.
So I got really good at talking to people really fast and selling people on this thing. I was like 17 years old doing this.
As a telemarketer.
Yes.
Wow.
And it was like, I was great at it. Like I broke records there because I had no, like I didn't, that like there wasn't the fear of failure and I didn't have anything to compare
there was
it to.
There was nothing that was like, oh, I've seen other people do this and it's whack. Or I know the stigma rather of what a telemarketer is in society.
Exactly.
Like you didn't even know what that was.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And they were so great. And it was such a great company. And I this dude, like, you know how you have like really important people in your life? Like the main dude that I was under that taught me everything I knew of just like communicating with people sadly passed away. But like this dude, Greg Winteregg, was the fucking guy. And he like really like empowered me. And like, he was always like the dude that was like, of course you can do that. Like he really put that there.
Right.
I learned that early and I made a decent amount of money, but I wasn't that happy. I could tell I didn't like corporate life. So then my friends start this band. I had kind of known music because of that, but I wasn't like playing in music. I can't play music. It was skateboarding.
Right. Like you didn't
cars.
grow up playing music. You're just enjoying it.
Exactly. Yeah. And then like photography, like I knew creative stuff because I'd want to take photos or like videos of skating or cars. And they go out, they start this band and it's called Set It Off. And they do this weekend run of shows. And like, hey, you're good at talking to people. You want to come out and sell merch? And I was like, sure. And that was the first time in my life that I think I like found my people and my place.
Yeah.
Like I was a little bit sheltered in the fact of like small town vibes and small schools. So I like my social skills of high school and all that wasn't really there. And when I met them, it was like, I finally felt like I was myself and I like had this meaning like we talked about that,
where it's
right?
like sort of like this moment of, I was just going to ask like, if it something clicked and you were just like, it was like almost a shock. You're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
This is it.
Yeah.
These are my people.
Exactly that, dude.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it was just like everything clicked and I was like, this is it.
Yeah.
And I felt like it was okay to be myself. I felt like it was so fun to go out with these dudes that were so creative and had such a vision. And I, being obsessed with like interesting people, like I couldn't make music, but I thought that they were so talented. And it was so cool that my business skills and my like being able to, I could sell dental consulting, I can sell shirts. Like they saw so much value in me and they're like, dude, you're so good at this. So it felt so cool to be a part of it.
Right.
And like be able to help where I thought they were superheroes. They could make music out of nothing.
Yeah, right.
And I think that's the early reason for all of this. That's why I love all my creative friends. That's why I love being a part of any creative industry is like, I've had that understanding of communication and sales and logistics, but I've also understood that like not doing that on a corporate level, like it's so boring, but finding that place in creative. And like, that's been the theme ever since
That's so sick. This like sparked something that was greater than music. It was greater than music management, which I won't finish your story for you, but you ended up going into whatever. Like it all sort of like comes back to this idea that like you're like fascinated with creative people and you're like loved being around them and loved being around just cool people.
And I've always felt like, I think that's why we have the friendship that we do is like when I meet those creative people that truly can like make these magical things and have this beautiful vision, it's so cool to be able to help with that and to continue to inspire. Because like creatives have a hard life. Like the amount of people that will try to bring creatives down that are threatened by people trying to do something new, like you see it. And I had that balance where I liked creating myself, but I understood enough of like the corporate and the logistics, where I was like, I became the band's, I went from selling merch to tour managing to day-to-day managing and kind of doing a lot of business management. And I really understood how much a creative has to go through just to make the shit they want to make. And I really found a place, like I found my place being able to be in that balance.
And like kind of what you were saying at one point when I was talking to you is just like this idea of like assisting those that you see like this like fantastic quality and this like star quality of like, you know, like you've got all these things, but like, let me help you further. Like, let me help you with the stuff that like might be hard. Yeah. You know, let me help, like you were saying, like creatives have like a hard life, which I would agree with that. Not to like be woe is me or anything, but like even we were musing about this space, like this week, all I've done is admin. And operations and stuff that's not art and stuff that's not having fun, you know?
And you see the 9-to-5 traditional path. Like you lived a little bit of that. Yeah. It's the easier path. So
by far,
anyone that chooses to go not do that path, like, yeah, there's a great reward if you nail it, but the amount of years and the amount of time where it's not great and it sucks, like, my God. So I feel like artists and creatives are like the most fucking cherished, precious thing in the world. And I'm like, you fucking leave them alone. And I think that like comes back again.
We need
to
more
my,
people like you, Andy.
But that's that thing. That was my purpose. That was my spark is like, I have my creative elements, but helping exceptional people do shit that they otherwise wouldn't be able to do was always something where like, I've always felt like artists are so cool. And I felt so welcomed by that. It's just always been this great relationship. So that's really been a common theme in all of the career since then.
Right. So, you set it off in this sort of like fireworks show happened in your mind where you're like, this is it.
Yeah.
I finally found my people.
Yeah.
So tell me what happens. What happens now?
Here's where hopefully I can do the story, and I don't want to skip details, but I don't want to get like hyper granular on everything.
There's a lot of people who want to know this. Remember.
Yeah, fair.
Yes. Fill them in.
So basically that's like around 2008. I'm 18 and at a very young age. I drop out of college and I go all in on touring with them. And like, again, shout out to my parents. I wasn't the kid that got material things. I always had a roof. That's it. But they always had the attitude of there's nothing in the world you can't do. They were always so supportive. So it wasn't like this, like beg them to drop out of college and go tour. I was like, hey, I think I want to do this. And they're like, yeah, you'd be great at that. Go do it. So like that, I think is like, shout out to parents that fucking support kids. Oh my God.
Without like any, you know, like my parents were like, I guess similar in a way where they were like really like wanting me to go to college and do all the stuff that everyone else did because it was the sure thing.
Yeah.
You know, but when I decided I'm not doing that and I'm going to do it this other way, they let me know it's going to be really hard, but they were like, we got your back.
Dude.
We got you. If I didn't have that,
it's so much more valuable than any money. Like,
anything they could have possibly done.
Oh my God.
You know?
So yeah, I got the blessings. I go out on tour and I mean, we were independent as hell. I think we bonded a lot in your episode and talked a lot about that of like, no one believed in it. Like we it's not like we got signed super early. Like it was so grassroots, so DIY, but it was also this beautiful era of the internet where YouTube and like stick cam and like things like that.
You brought that up. Stick cam. That's
bro. But like Cody, the singer, like was this brilliant artist and songwriter. And his early success was YouTube covers. And those covers, like, I think he did an all-time low cover that got noticed by the band, and then they brought him out on stage. I think I know this.
Yes.
And that was like the catalyst of then him going on stage and being, I'm going to do this. But from a very early age, we understood the power of the internet and YouTube. And we're kind of like at that time, obviously it was a thing, but you weren't making money. There wasn't like AdSense and revenue off of being big on the internet.
It was so just marketing.
Yes. And a lot of people were like, didn't get the value of it, but we did. So we just leaned into it so heavy. And even though we were independent, anywhere we would tour on these DIY shows, we would have a crowd because of people that had found us on YouTube. Yeah. And it was so special. So that was a really big part of my life. Went from merch to then tour management. It was just this natural progression of none of us knew, and we were all growing together. And it was like, oh, well, I guess we need a tour manager now.
You're like, I'm that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, well, all right. Yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah.
From 2008 to 2014, I toured with them. And it was a really, really magical time. Yeah.
I don't remember that. That's interesting. That
was my college of life.
That's incredible.
My God. Like, touring
What a blessing.
Yeah. Oh my God. I look back at that as some of the fondest memories. Like I grew so much as a person. I was so awkward before that. And I think that I like really found myself, and they were just such a great group. Like we were all together. There was no stopping us. Like we gassed each other up so much. And it was like
the inside jokes and the ongoing, just everything's just ongoing.
Oh my
all the
God.
time. And it is that gassing up too. Like I miss having people just to talk with and gas each other up about stuff. Like that is something that I didn't even know I was missing.
Yeah.
Or you get that sort of in little bits at like jobs, where you have like cool comrades, but in a band.
Yeah.
Like in a music group,
dude,
it's a different level.
It's just a whole different level. And I think like you can kind of get stuck in it. You would come back to real life after touring. And like, I don't know.
All the contrast is down.
Yeah. And you kind of just really feel on top of the world. Like it's this life in a bubble. And it's like, but it's really magical. So that was like, I was obsessed with that. And I grew so much, and I got to travel. Like we ended up getting signed and went from touring in vans across like DIY US tours to then, like flying across the country, and, got to go to all of Europe and Japan, and the first bus that we go in, and like, it's sick. Not like they became like the world's biggest band, but had enough success where I was like, oh, this is sick.
Yes.
And that was like,
it was sustaining. It was self-sustaining.
Yeah. And it was like, that was such an important time in my life. And I'm so thankful for that. But I think at the end of that, when that ended, I realized that was my favorite thing. I ultimately, like, it wasn't my band and my creative vision. And I had ideas of like how I would do it. And I was like, why am I like, it's not my say there. Like it should be Cody. It should be the band. Right. And I kind of was just kind of like getting a little jaded from touring. And I was like, this isn't right. Like this is the coolest job in the world. Yeah. Somebody should be out there that loves it.
That really loves this.
Yeah. And I realized again, I was like, I just like helping creatives grow. And I was like, I can do that elsewhere. It doesn't have to be this. Around 2014, I realized that. And that was like a weird, that was a weird time because that was my identity and that's what I thought I was going to be forever. And going away from that, and like I had a real like weird identity crisis of what do I do now, and like finding myself all over again.
Reconstruction.
Yeah.
The loss of identity through something that you're like very, very integrated with, like it's like a part of you. It's like weaved into the very fabric of your being. It's like that same thing definitely has kind of happened to me on and off in my life. Obviously, like I was in music and then I wasn't, and then I was back in it, and then I'm now whatever. I still have this feeling of just like, it's like a long lost lover.
Dude.
That you're like,
right?
Oh man, like I know that this feeling's only seeing the rosy parts. I know that. I know that it's not thinking about the Chef Boyardee outside the side of the 76.
Yes.
I know it's not thinking about that or considering the sleepless van trips and the breaking down in the middle of the desert and the sawing off your own catalytic converter shit, like, or what was it, the muffler? Yeah. We had like a muffler that was dragging on the ground.
And you just cut it off.
We like stole a saw from an auto shop. We distracted the guys, and somebody went in and stole a saw, put it down their pants, and went to the van, and we drove halfway down.
For some reason, that story is all you need to say about tour. Like, that's actually just all of tour right there.
That is exactly it. Like, honestly, obviously even that, like, in the disparity and like the despair rather of that situation, and knowing we're literally in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. There's this little tiny auto shop where the house that the person's working at the auto shop is like right next to the auto shop. I mean, we're talking like a town of 50 people or something. Yeah. It's like, that is not very fun. And in my adult self, I start getting anxiety thinking about being stranded in the middle of the desert with a car that might not work.
I sometimes fear it, where I look back at it and I don't want to be the guy that used to be cool in high school. And I wasn't cool in high school. It was afterwards. But like, I don't want to have my glory days that's the thing already, right?
Yeah.
And they were so good
forever.
Yes. And it's a really weird thing. Like, I mean, we have a lot of friends that are out still touring and killing it. And some people go full in. But I think maybe you and I relate, where it's like we stayed in a creative lane. We stayed bordering music. We're still around it. But we went and found our own lives and kind of had to like figure out this next chapter.
Right.
And that was fucking hard for me, dude. Like I was straight up like, it was really weird because I left touring And I didn't like talk to anyone else, and I didn't try to like go behind the backs of anyone. I just like, it was kind of this weird moment where one day we had this conversation and it got to that point where I was like, yeah, guys, like I think this has to be it.
Yeah.
And it was nothing but love. They're still the fucking homies. And
Mm-hmm.
but it was just like, all right, yeah, like after this tour, it's enough of a gap. You can find a new TM. We can kind of convert a lot of the business stuff I was doing. We'll be good. Shortly after that, I got a couple job offers. People had heard that I had left, and it was a job offer from a management company, a record label, and a merch company. And I went with the label. It was the label the band was signed to, Equal Vision. And I went there because I liked the people there the most. And I kind of just figured I'd go where good people were. And it's hard for me to talk about this chapter. Like, I don't want it to sound like I'm talking shit, but I went into it with this like very wide-eyed of like, I'm going to come in and change the scope. And like, it's going to be so cool.
Mind you, you're 24 right now.
Yeah.
Which is like still an age that you're like doing shit like that.
Yeah,
or thinking
exactly.
like that. Rather.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, shout out like Dan and Francesca there, and then Johnny came later. Like there were some people there that are like ride or dies.
Yeah.
But it felt like trying to teach an old dog new tricks. I was the young kid that was like all in on the internet because that's what worked for us.
Mm-hmm.
I was so excited about Spotify. I think 2014, 2015.
And it was the bane of every label's existence for at least the first few years. Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, like we have a person that does that. And I'm like, yeah, but like, what if we like did this?
Yeah.
And I think it just wasn't the right fit. I think that I was trying to fit into a role that wasn't quite it.
Well, that was what I was going to say, is it just sounds like it wasn't a good fit.
Yeah.
And like, that's one of those like phrases that I found that if you say that, it's no one's fault.
Yeah.
It just wasn't a good fit.
But what's interesting and what it did do was it got me to California because I was
like sort of your foot in the door.
Exactly. Because the label was opening an office in Pasadena and I was so broke. I like couldn't, I ended up moving to San Diego because rent was cheaper and I would drive up every other week and stay on Fish's couch for a week.
What?
Yeah, bro.
That's crazy.
I was making so little and I like believed in it so much that I had this super cheap rent in San Diego. And every other week I'd drive up for a week, work at the label in Pasadena, sleep on Fish's couch, and then I'd drive home and stay in San Diego for a week.
Shout out Mike Fishian.
I'm telling you, dude.
I didn't even know you guys went back that far.
Oh, yeah.
I just met Fish like Roxy days. So
oh, yeah.
2018 maybe, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like one of the most genuine people.
Yeah,
right? Just
he
so
is,
giving.
totally, yeah.
But so it gets me out to California, and being out here, I started to think about it a little bit differently, and I started to figure out what I wanted to do. And I got really obsessed with like SoundCloud and like the underground, like emo rap, hip hop scene, for a lack of genre to define it. Johnny Minardi had started working at Equal Vision, and he's like another one of those dudes. Like I talk about Greg, like Johnny was another one where it's like, I found my person.
Yeah.
And he signed an artist named Nothing Nowhere, and he was kind of big in that like scene. And that opened a lot of doors, and I just deep dove into that. And ultimately he left Equal Vision to go work at Fueled By. And when I didn't have him, I was like, all right, I'm out.
Yeah.
So I like left shortly after and decided to start my own label, which was like such a, anyone can do that. It's just the internet.
Podcast.
But yeah, exactly. But it was the idea of like, all right, if we should be paying more attention to Spotify, do it. If like, if all, in my opinion, if all that matters is touring and owning playlisting, go do it. Oh, and I guess in that, I kind of managed artists for a minute when I was at the label. I was doing that on the side.
Took a few on just to kind of like keep the
like the cohesive. Yeah. I look back at that and I was like, I was not meant to be a manager. I don't care about that part of my life. But we had some success. We got some bands signed. It was cool.
All right, then we're good.
Yeah,
I got some wins.
Yeah. But anyway, so started that, and it was another like, I felt it again. I felt that like touring excitement again. Did that for a while and met some really rad artists, and we like made a tour. Like the label's called Version 3. And made a tour and like sold out a bunch of dates on the East Coast, the West Coast. Like we did these little legs, and it was again so special because I was like with my people again. Right. We were doing this rad stuff.
Right.
And that's like 2018, 19. I like for a minute I was like, maybe I go back to tour. And my buddy had tour managed Carly Rae Jepson.
Ooh.
And I was like, he like hits me up after the Version 3 tour ends, and he's like, yo, what are you doing? I was like, I can go out. I go out, and it's like, this is a level of touring that I hadn't done before.
Next level, I'm sure.
Cases of yerba mate on deck, ready to go. So
Let
good.
me tell you.
Let me tell you about luxury touring. No, but like, you know, crew
the
bus and all that.
Crazy.
Oh my God. Go out on that, and I'm loving it. 2 weeks into the tour, bro.
Uh-huh.
Sorry, the podcast starts before this happens. The podcast
really?
starts in version 3 days. The podcast starts in 2019.
Wow. Damn.
So
legacy over here.
Fucking nuts.
Legacy podcaster. I love it. You're an inspiration to me. I'm like seeing myself as like a 39-year-old, like being like, yes, back in 2022, actually. Yeah.
That's when it started, the Golden Couch. God. But yeah, so that starts and I'm kind of like finding my flow again.
Mm-hmm.
Go out on this Carly tour and I'm like, this is going to be amazing. 2 weeks into the tour, I break my fucking femur.
Oh my God.
So stupid. It was such like a stupid freak accident.
Dude. Here's another part of the story that I didn't know that this was on tour with Carly Rae Jepsen. I just knew about the femur breaking and the accident, which I will ask you to kindly detail.
Oh my God. Well, growing up skateboarding, like that's like, I just always did stupid shit. Yeah. And me and our guitar tech were just boys and we would always find bird scooters and while out and jump off stuff. And you know, as you do. And we were just like, we wanted to go get coffee in the morning. We roll out of our bunks and we get bird scooters and I'm bombing this hill full speed. I go to air a gap and I think the wheel like locked up in the air. Like I think giving myself credit, I think I got so much sick air that this scooter was like, oh, it must not be riding anymore. There's no ground. So the wheel locks up. I land, the wheel's locked up. I endo over, land in the street, catch my hip. And I was like, I thought I was just going to have a bad bruise. I get up and I'm like, ooh, that's going to leave a bruise. Ride for another block. And I'm like, ooh, this hurts.
You're
Go
like,
sit
wow,
down.
Everything hurts.
Yeah. Sit down and I'm like, and then I'm like sitting on a park bench and I like go to get up and my vision starts closing in and I'm like trying to play it so cool. And I'm like, coffee without me. I'm going to Uber back.
Oh my God. And it's just like.
But still, I didn't think anything was like bad. I was just like, fuck. And then we end up, fucking, dude, it was. So the fucked up thing is I had broken a femur when I was 7 years old. I got pushed off a jungle gym.
So you're familiar with the femur.
Femur fucking squad. Jesus. Finally, they convinced me to go to urgent care. Urgent care x-rays it. And they're like, you broke your femur. Go to the ER right now. And I was like, no. I'm on this incredible tour. Life is finally good again. Like I found my purpose. Like give me a cane. Like what do we do? This. Yeah. Run it again. X-ray it again. Yeah. Try again. Mulligan. That ended up happening. And I was off the tour and I had to get this gnarly surgery. And it like really fucked me up. Like it was like this huge speed bump in life when I'd finally after struggling around after touring and like, I mean, dude, from 2014 to 2018, 19, there's like 3-4 years of me like kind of doing the label thing, kind of doing the management thing, like doing consulting, like being fucking lost. Mm-hmm. Like it was not rad. Years. Mm-hmm. And like being in California broke, like that shit sucks.
That shit sucks.
Oh my God.
Being in the most beautiful place in the United States and being broke.
Dude.
Not fun.
And like not having purpose. Like, and seeing all the other homies that had figured it out, like being like, what am I doing wrong? Yeah. Like that shit sucked.
Yeah. All this like self-hatred or whatever. Like
it was
you're
really
just like
hard.
beating yourself
and
up.
So alone.
And,
like I had moved from Florida. I didn't have my people out here. Mm-hmm. Like it was a really weird, hard time.
Wow. No homies, like lost purpose.
Yeah.
Like, and then you finally get this like window opened for you and you're like, the air, it smells so good. It just smells just like it did last time. I'm ready. I'm ready to fully realize my full potential. Cue airing off.
Just a fucking gnarly bird
bird jump.
And life is like, nah,
sorry,
thanks.
bro.
And bro, like it fucking sucked. And yeah, so I was down and out and ended up, I mean, I couldn't walk for 3 months, was hobbly for like 6 months, a year. Like it was really rough. So it takes me off of touring. I did luckily have the podcast.
That's good.
And I was able to do that even broken, and thank fucking God, because I really, again, found how much I loved that and doubled down on it.
Yeah.
However, though, think about this timing. Summer 2019, I break my leg. I can't walk for 3 months. Like can't do anything, like stuck immobile at my parents' house, not even in LA, like back in Florida, because I can't do anything.
You need a caretaker, essentially.
Yeah. Then get back to LA, still like fumbly, wobbly, like can't do shit, certainly can't tour, can barely walk. And
the cane, though.
Crutches.
Oh.
Yeah, crutches. And then I would do like one crutch. Like, oh God. So then finally, it's like end of 2019 and I can like kind of walk. And I had this joke. I was like, we're about to be in the roaring 20s. Like it's about to be fucking ripping. So like I figured I'd go back to tour. I figured the podcast would get going.
You saw
COVID.
it start. It was going like this and then.
Yep. And then COVID. Because by the time I can walk again, early 2020.
Wild that it's like, so like, it feels like this is a compressed timeline because COVID feels like it just chopped like 2 years out of the picture or something like that.
Yeah.
Because now I'm like, and we're here. Like it feels like you broke your femur yesterday, you know?
And now we're good. Yeah. So again, that happened. So I'm not touring, but what happened there was beautiful was podcast kept going, loved it.
Yeah.
The label, I end up getting 2 partners who are like my best friends in music. Like I thought they were the best people.
Sick.
And I'm not sure, I am not going to say the names because I don't know how much they want to be public on it.
Yeah,
but
that's fair.
2 of my very, very best friends in music who I think do it the absolute best.
Yeah.
I could not believe they took interest in the label and thought it was so special.
Wow.
So we did this partnership and they now get to like run something that they think is so special. And
Dude, that's so
all this
sick.
happens.
Yeah.
Podcast keeps going.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized like the other part of my story very early on was cars. I'd always loved cars and liked music. Music was just meeting my friends and just being like, oh, y'all are cool. I have this giant chunk of music, but I had always had this love for cars that I did nothing about. So I met these homies at Race Service, which is this beautiful creative agency. Again, kind of similar problem of here of how do you explain it?
Totally.
But like
Yeah, I've
Charlie's
seen it.
Chocolate Factory, Willy Wonka's fucking like everything I could ever dream of. Coolest place in the world just exists.
So sick.
Garage in mid-city LA with all of these creative capabilities.
Like a candy
you can work
shop.
on your, it's incredible. It's this, but cars.
But for cars. Yeah.
And I meet them and we start to become friends and they kind of realize that all my skills as a tour manager and as the label skills and everything I had done could translate into basically being like a producer. From that, I kind of start working there a bit. And
by producer, you said there's all these things that you've learned as tour manager, channel into producer. What does that entail? Not to like.
So I find that hard to describe. Like I'm really bad at corporate titles.
Yeah.
I would probably like. I just can't be fucked to care. Like the like director of this and I have this title.
I'm
and
convinced
this
that it's only for
like,
LinkedIn.
Right?
That's all it's for.
Right?
Period.
Exactly. And I never care. I'm just like, I don't know, I can get stuff done. Like,
right, exactly.
Yeah.
And that was something I just brought up with a client recently. I was like, why don't we refer to people as producers? Because I feel like that we're trying to sell a product to a large amount of people. And I was like, there's a lot of people who define themselves as producers that all do different things, but they're all in line with like what producing the word is, which is production, which is creating something.
Making stuff. Also, shout out to Gold Couch with the Fiji water.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
You know?
I'm trying to get that sponsorship. You know what I mean?
Producer. So what's that mean there? So I think right now what it means is a lot of the same things that I did as a tour manager where every day is different and you're just solving problems and making stuff and helping a bunch of creatives like get to the finish line, which is again, common theme. I love it.
Totally.
And what that actually translates down to is right now helping a lot of the creators for video production shoots. Because it feels like getting ready for tour. You're just getting all the gear ready. You're doing all the logistics, the schedule, all that. I love that stuff.
Yeah, the checklists.
Yep. A lot of apparel production, which is, again, something I was familiar with touring and all of that.
Band stuff, just like you get a one-on-one in that.
The college of life, bro.
Yes, it really is.
Yeah. So that, and then like account management, which is I love people. I love new clients. I love making sure the clients are stoked. I love delivering the good news, finding creative solutions for the bad news.
Right.
So like I would say that combination of those 3 things of like account management, apparel production, and then like getting ready for shoots and setting up and facilitating.
I would say producer
shoots.
is very, very accurate.
Yeah. But again, it's funny if you think about that. None of that is really like the creative makers. There's some people there that I think are the best creatives in the world, but it's just working hand in hand with them, letting them do their superpower where I'm like facilitating.
Right.
And I love that.
Helping them leverage what's already there. Yeah.
And it's incredible. And I feel so fulfilled because I've always loved cars and I was always afraid to work in the thing I loved. Like I was always like, I'll work in music because I like it. I don't love it.
Right.
And then it can't get ruined.
Yeah.
And then I kind of had this fuck it moment where I was like, I don't know, like life's short. Like if I loved this so much, like why don't I scratch that itch and see? And I'm so fucking happy. Like, I
it makes
love
me
it.
happy.
So
That's beautiful.
holy shit, maybe long story short, short story long. It's the combination now of label with the best friends, podcast, and producer at Race Service.
Wow.
Holy crap, I talk too much.
That's so beautiful. No. That was perfect, man. I mean, I was trying to get to the bottom of this because we share similar affliction, I think, professionally at least, where it's like, how do you describe this indescribable thing? How do you give it the context that an entire life has informed this thing? And how do you deliver that on a plate for somebody in a 2-sentence elevator speech is very difficult. And sometimes I think completely fucking unnecessary.
So unnecessary.
Because I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm too dynamic for that shit.
Yes.
Like I'm what I do here, it's too dynamic.
Yes.
It is. Because the reason I'm successful and the reason why I'm able to do all of this stuff is because I have this like rich background and rich, diverse set of things that, you know, just like you were like account management, you know, production management, like knowledge of screen printing through having worked with bands, like all of those things. Yeah. Dude, it is invaluable. And it's like yesterday, like every day is different for me. Yesterday I was helping a client that thought they needed a Pantone color for something. Yeah. Wasn't a Pantone. It's not a Pantone job. Like you need that for screen printing. It's not a digital printer. I was like, you don't need a Pantone. They're like, why don't we need a Pantone? That's industry standard. I was like, trust me. Right. It's just going to fuck things up. Yeah. I was like, let's just do some print samples. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. It's like, how do I know that? Pantone stuff from band, digital print stuff from school, and here.
And being a fucking girl skateboards designer for however long.
Going to China
every
and
color
touring,
study, every manufacturing process.
Watching the people create this stuff and all of that informing everything, just being fused in. It's like, I used to, when I started therapy again, like 2 years ago, I was like, really like, man, like, wish I had that thing that I was just like, yes, I'm Gordy and I'm an illustrator. Yeah. And that's, Dude, and that's it. And all I do is I do ink and gouache or something.
That is one of the conversations that you and I have all the time because we talk about like, doesn't it sound so easy? Doesn't it sound so wonderful to be able to brand your, and you see the people on Instagram and it's like, this is what they do. And they have this huge following because the hashtag and everything is like
the same.
Split second, you can see, oh, all they do is paint with these 3 colors and they use this medium and that's it. And they're the best at it.
And all the videos are a process of them doing it.
Yep.
In A, B, or C way.
Yep.
The final product in A, B, or C way.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah.
The whole feed is beautiful.
Oh my, I wish that I could just have the one thing and be like, I love this. I'm obsessed with this. This is all I do. Here's how you understand it. And it's so easy to sell to people and people understand it off the rip. And it's like, is it a blessing or a curse what we have? I don't know.
Totally.
I don't know.
Well, it's like one of actually, funny enough, I told you this, I think on our podcast we did on Where Are All My Friends. Yeah. And I think that somehow, I don't know how I hit this cultural like nerve, but like I've heard this now in TikToks and Reels and stuff like that since I brought this up and since I discovered it in my own life. The Jack of all trades quote.
Oh my God. Jack of all trades, master of, well, wait, was you that said master of some?
No, it's a Shakespeare quote.
Okay.
And Shakespeare said, a jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. And he was talking about himself. Because he was a writer. He was a writer, a producer, a thespian, an actor. And he did every single job in order to learn how to make the best play ever. I drew the curtains, did the makeup, like whatever he could do that would diversify his knowledge of theater so he could write the best play ever. And the fuckery of all of it that is now, like I was saying, spread around TikTok is real. And I was like, damn, am I just unoriginal or did that just happen at the same time? Because I had never heard that before until I Googled it one day.
Really?
And I Googled, why do people say that? Jack of all trades, master of none. That's where they stop.
Yeah.
I was like, why do people say that? That's so fucking stupid. Like,
I hate it.
I hate that. It makes me feel like shit.
Yes.
You know, because I sell that.
Yes.
My selling point is that I am a master of all.
Right.
So that I can give you direction on every single aspect of what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Why is that problematic? You know? And then I found out that that was the truth.
Tell me it again, that quote.
A jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one.
How did that get cut in half?
I don't know.
Bro.
So I was like, okay. All of a sudden, it was just one day that I read that, bro. I felt like I had like goosebumps all over my body. And I like looked around at the studio and I was like, I can make music. I can make art. I can paint. I can cut video. I'm fucking awesome.
And it's so, I feel that. I see you and I'm like, you're a fucking superhero. Like every time I sit down with you, you're teaching me something new. Like you can make the theme song for your podcast. You can make the cover art and illustrate it.
Make the animation.
You can edit the video. You figured out the technical. Like, are you kidding me? I respect that more than anything. That is a superpower.
Thank you.
But I feel that torture of like that because it ends there. Jack of all trades, master of none.
Master of none. And then
wish that I could be the guy that just was famous on IG for painting the thing and just the one thing.
Exactly,
dude.
And with zero dimension.
Right.
And like no hate. Like I think we should also clear the air that there is totally value in that. And I think that might come down to this personality archetype that we were even talking about. What part of the day is best for you to work out?
Yeah.
For me, it's in the afternoon.
Yeah.
No doubt. For you, it's the
nighttime. Yeah.
Some other people, it's the morning. Everyone wants to tell everybody else what's the best.
Right.
But really it comes down to that personal person.
Yeah.
I have friends like my homie Bill Rebholz is like a homie from actually Steak Mob days.
I remember that.
My first art collective.
That's in our pod.
Yeah, dude.
What did you say about it? It's rare
and bleeding on the plate.
Yeah,
dude. So my boy Bill was a Steak Mob member, and he is one of my favorite illustrators ever. Yeah. I think he has like such a unique style. He's a sign painter. He's the one who taught me like tons of lettering stuff. He was like an inspiration to me. We worked at agencies together. He's like so ill. He like now does like Warby Parker murals and stuff. Like he's like,
oh shit, like the kind of like
that
fun
style,
colored,
that kind of chunky, like funny looking characters, but like very distinct.
I'm thinking, I see a lot of blue when I think of it.
A lot of blue, a lot of really bold colors, like fun colors, but very let me think, nuanced.
Yeah, and he'll use like a primary color and then accent shades of it.
Yes.
No way, that's him.
Well, there's several Warby Parker people who do that.
Sick.
But they cater to that style.
Wow.
So Bill is gnarly. I hope Bill actually just moved out here. I hope he's on the podcast. Oh, and Bill is one of these people who has the gnarliest. He will be on it. He has one of the dopest Instagrams ever, like the sick following, the sickest like motif, the coolest, like, everything makes sense.
Yep.
A magazine could look at his work and say, oh, we will hire you because there's no variant or not no variance. I know what I'm getting.
Yep.
I know exactly what your style is, what you cater to, what you dig. I know that if I hire you, you're not going to give me a realism portrait in charcoal.
Yep.
You're going to give me what Bill does.
Yeah.
Which is like so perfect for Bill, valuable for him as an illustrator, a commercial illustrator to be able to get work.
Yeah.
Like all that stuff totally makes sense for Bill. And he kills it.
I'm so jealous of that.
That's and I'm when jealous
we're talking about that. Like the whole Jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah.
When I see the person, like that's not to talk shit on that person.
Totally.
We talk about this because I wish so bad that I could.
Right. And well, we've spent our whole time, when I was in Steak Mob, I felt like I was the weakest link in a lot of ways because they were always teaching me.
Yeah.
Like it was me, Bill Rebholz, Lou Mejia, Tomas Villaseñor, Andres Guzman, and they were all fucking gnarly. Like still the best painters and illustrators that I've ever been around in the same room with, sharing time with, sharing art with, like huge shoes to, I don't know, fill, but like huge people to look up to.
It's something really beautiful to surround yourself with such talent, but it puts this immense pressure or like, it's just, you really feel like you have to step up.
Right.
And you admire those people so much that you can almost give yourself imposter syndrome.
100%.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking, I don't have anything to offer here. Like every time we do an art show together, I felt like I would do just well enough to fit in with everybody else. And even though like, I don't like think I'm a shitty artist. Like I think I've come far and I think that I do cool stuff, but it was like walking in the shadows of giants.
There is no way you think you're a shitty artist.
No. I mean, some days I do feel like I've never made a piece of real art in my whole life, but it's my own problem.
Bro, how? Your skate decks are literally hung up. Your art is
what
here.
What else do you need, right?
What the fuck? That's
I know,
crazy.
there's still imposter syndrome. That was like actually one of the working subtexts that I had for the Gold Couch was a proven antidote to imposter syndrome.
Yo.
Because it's like talking through some of this stuff.
Yo.
It's extremely
Bro, run that. That's
bad.
good.
Yeah, I know. Well, I got a few other ones that were pretty cool. Like speaking to the best to inspire the next. Also pretty dope. Okay.
Fucking. I guess he's a copywriter too. Sure.
I am.
Fuck.
Yeah. I actually just
Are you actually?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just did this whole, bro, I'll show you the video afterward. But Gear, one of my biggest clients, they had me do this Kickstarter video. And the whole time we were doing it, I was sort of under the impression that, well, I wasn't, they told me, we're going to get a voiceover guy, we're going to pay to license music and do this, and this. So I just figured like, I really only have to take the video and edit it. And then we sort of fill in the blanks, Turns out I had to write all the copy. And then I did a scratch voiceover and they liked it so much that they asked me to do the voiceover. And then I was trying to find like royalty-free music on the internet, not even free, like paid. Like
What is it, like
Artlist.io.
and
There's so many of them. Yeah. Adobe stock has their own shit, whatever. I was like, this music is so fucking horrible. I could take and dump my entire catalog of beats that I've made over the past however many years without even looking at the export, and I would be better off. I would be making better music than all of the stuff.
Yes.
And a light bulb went off. I was like, shit, I should just do the song. So I was like, let me just go see what I have. And so I just started leafing through songs and like opening up files. And I was like, this one could work. And then I just like tweaked it and made it right for the thing. And then I basically did the voiceover in Ableton with the song and like locked it up to the different sections, got to do like, beat flips when like something new happened in the video and like customized it, whatever. But even just writing that copy and finessing the copy, I was just like, what the fuck? This is crazy. Like I'm like fully like now like a copywriter, creative director, account director,
bro,
whatever.
Honestly, even talking to you like in real time, it's like this lesson. I'll probably need to hear it 1,000 times. At least we have it recorded now, but it's like, we need to fucking celebrate this. Like the whole like being hard on yourself for not
no reason
fitting in this single box.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is what it is. Like certain people, like your homie at Warby or past Warby,
Bill.
But like Bill has that, and that's fucking awesome, and we can respect that. But like
but it
also,
doesn't mean
like,
that everybody's got to be that.
Exactly. Yeah. Like. Because I hear you explaining what you do, and I'm like, how in the world could you ever question that you're fucking incredible? But like for me, it's like, okay, cool. Stuff. Like, yeah, maybe I am destined to have a podcast, be a producer at a creative agency, and have a label with my homies. Like, maybe I can't tell that story perfectly on IG, but like, maybe that doesn't fucking matter.
It doesn't matter, dude. Because it's like the culmination of these efforts is just more than IG, you know? And like, it's remembering that Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all this stuff, at its very, I'll say, most fundamental reason for its existence is marketing.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's not about social status. It's not about, it's about money because marketing creates money, right?
Yeah.
But it's mostly about marketing. It's just about talking about it, right? And I think we lose sight of that. And we like look at it like there's badges, there's blue check marks, there's like counts, there's engagements, there's et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then it starts like pushing down. Like for me, like I start being like, I don't want to post anything because it's like not going to do well. And I feel weird. And then I'm going to feel bad or something. And it's like, I kind of kicked that a little while ago where I was like, I just need to like, just like when I was talking about that recursive thing, when I post stuff now, it helps me in that feedback process.
Yeah.
If I don't post it, the feedback process can't go its full cycle.
Yep.
So I'll make it and it gets thrown into a void.
Yeah.
And then we never see it again. I never see it again. No one sees it. No one talks about it. And then I feel like I'm not good at anything because I didn't share it. And I didn't get at least just one person go, oh shit, that's dope. One like would be fine. I don't even need a fucking like.
Right.
I just need to put it somewhere.
Yeah.
It's just like with the fucking typing it and reading it.
Right. Yeah. You literally have a typewriter. It's so sick.
Every day, baby.
It's
or I try.
So good.
But you know, it's like that thing. It's like you got to get past that and also like unbrainwash yourself to thinking that this cool string of things you just listed, maybe I was destined to have my own podcast and work at a creative agency based in the automobile space. And run my own record label with my 2 best friends. Maybe that's my fucking story, and that should be okay to tell that. That should be okay.
Feel seen. Thank you. This is a therapy couch.
Fuck. That's what I'm telling you, bro.
Fuck,
The
dude.
proven antidote to imposter syndrome.
Fuck, man.
But it's like, I think like to you said it best. It's like we got to stop beating ourselves up about this stuff because it's super rad, and as we go into this new era, I think the idea of being a singular contributor of something, like be it an illustrator, be it a painter, a music producer, whatever it is, having a limited scope of what you can produce.
Yeah.
I think that that's sort of fading. And I do think that the new person is versed. I think these kids who are making sick TikTok videos and stuff are versed in video editing, are versed in sound curation, are versed in lighting, are versed in photography, are versed in marketing and engagement and PR and so many things that make them infinitely more hireable or applicable in the world because they have all of these things they can do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I think that it's just the reminder that it's okay to be great at what you're great at and to do you. Like the reason I started the podcast and like something that I had a really strong, what keeps me going with it is I think about myself in those 3 years of being fucking lost and probably like the saddest that I had been in California or just in life, but in California, like thinking that I like had figured it out and then being so lost and not knowing and kind of stumbling on purpose after tour. And I wished that there was a resource. And I found podcasts and I found conversations where people would talk about their careers and their journey. And I felt less alone because I was like, oh, this person went through this too.
Right.
Or like, oh, whoa, this person figured this out at this point, and that's so crazy.
Yes.
So I've always wanted to pay that forward. I always want to hear as many different stories and tell as many different stories as I can in hopes to inspire the next generation or anyone to go do their thing and to not settle for what they think they should do.
Right.
It's like I've had people on that are great at the one thing, and then I've had people on that have done a ton of things. And I think that just being okay with whatever it is that you are and owning it, I think there's space for all of it right now.
Oh, there is, man. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
I have this like thing up. I took it down, I think, because it was in the shot or something, but it was the laws of not attraction, laws of detachment.
Oh.
And there's the first 2 back to back are let yourself be who you are. Let others be who they are.
Damn.
So simple.
Damn.
So simple.
Bars.
And bars, right? Because it's like, what's at the root of all of this? We go to like Instagram, we look at somebody's profile and we think, oh, I wish I was like that.
Yeah.
Or I'm not able to be like that. I'll never be able to be like that. How could I ever possibly fit in?
Yeah.
That feeling. And it's like, you're not allowing yourself to be who you are, and you're not just allowing them to be who they are.
Right.
You're asking yourself to be who they are.
Right. Right.
You're putting that expectation on yourself.
Well, I think something else, like I know we've talked about this in the past, didn't come up much on this, but I'm very big on mindset and I guess you could say like manifestation, but like not in the cheesy way. Like I think you need to work for things, but I think like visualizing those things and really knowing it.
100%.
And on my little vision board and constant reminders that I have a little note and it says, enjoy the process. Because I also think that if you obsess too much over perfection, I think you and I, again, do this and we see the end game and all we want is that. And you get lost in that and you don't stop and smell the roses. You don't look
100%.
around you. So I also try to tell myself, like, if I'm doing my best and I'm growing these things and I'm having fun and I'm making these meaningful connections, it doesn't actually matter, but to enjoy the process, that like maybe it isn't defined right now for like a specific, like, oh,
right,
I can't tell you in an elevator pitch this, whatever, but just enjoying the process and doing it for yourself. Like that, there's so much growth and fun in that.
Oh, so much.
And I always look at that and I try to remind myself, like, I love it. Like that's part of it.
It's major, dude.
Yeah.
You actually allow the thing to be what it is and you stop getting in the way of it and being like,
Yeah.
Color grading wasn't right. Sound a little off. You know, you stop getting in the way, and then you actually get this truly authentic thing.
Yeah.
It's like a song that was overproduced. Like, you know, you're with bands long enough to know, did they ever use the words or the term demoitis?
Yeah.
Where you got a demo and you love the demo. You guys listen to it on repeat. This is like going to be the next biggest song you've ever put out. Then you go to record it at the real studio. You redo the guitars, you redo the vocals, everything. All the scratch stuff gets put away and it sounds fucking bad. It sounds, just lifeless.
Yeah.
You're like, why? And it's like, because there was something in that messy like chord change that happened. And there was something in the beat that was dropped on accident because he dropped a stick, but for some reason it worked.
Yes.
And all of those nuanced things that are human and beautiful that we like forget about. We're like so quick to be like, it's not perfect, so run it back.
Yeah.
Get it right.
Dude.
Get it right. You know, it's like, that's allegorical for life, I think.
I agree. And I think something else that maybe we missed in this that we had talked about before is, as I told my story, the thing that I didn't really touch on is like, we both found this to be true when we like looked back is things always got better in our life when we took risks.
Oh yeah.
Like I told that story in a somewhat linear way. The amount of failures that I had, the amount of things that I had tried, the amount of like steady income to keep me going in these uncertain time jobs that I'd pick up of consulting and production management that I quit, that took me way too long to quit because I was afraid of the stability. That all of these things, all of these, like, I told that story in a very, I went to this, to this, to this.
Yeah, and then this happened, and then this happened.
You'll hear these interviews, you'll be like, oh, well, they had it all figured out. I did not.
Right.
And there were so many times where I was fucking terrified. And those giant risks where maybe it was all going to fall apart and I was going to have to move home. That, like, the most growth happens in those risks. And that was something that like you and I kind of talk about this. And I think that I was like thinking about it as I was thinking all of this is like, we didn't really cover that of there's enjoy the process, but then there's also the reminder that you should be uncomfortable. And I think both of us have experienced plenty of those moments in the journey of like separating from what we once knew as the only thing of touring in bands to then figuring life out. Dude, the amount of times of uncertainty and risks and things that we had to go through. I mean,
and even going, the ironic part is that even getting into the band scene and starting that was a behemoth risk. The biggest risk probably either of us have ever taken it, because we both took it at the same time. Get out of high school, like you started college and said, fuck this. I finished high school, didn't start college and was like, fuck this. Either way, splitting hairs here. Fuck this. But ran into this thing going, I'm going to do this then. Because this is what makes me happy and this is what is going to inspire me and make life worth living. At that time, not even really understanding the gravity of the risk that you're taking. Granted, you're young. So like, I would always say that these risks that seem like now as a 35-year-old, I'm like, doing that now would be a little harder. Of course. I think 18 through 28 was tailor-made for these types of risks. I think it was meant to be. You should absolutely
the stakes
be doing
were pretty
this.
fucking low.
They're
the risks
so
were,
low. There's nothing to lose, man.
Easier to take.
Nothing to lose. No savings to lose. No credit to run up. Nothing. You're just fresh.
Simpler safety net, more friends' parents' houses and own parents' houses to crash at.
Totally. And it's easy to like look back and be like, how do I not take all those risks now? But the thing is like every single, like you were just saying, like, and what came up last time we did this and just really in our conversations, period, is like that element of risk. You know, when I trace it back for myself and I look at all of these moments, like that I took a risk that might have been irrecoverable if I didn't go well. It might have fucked everything up. Like whatever that means. Every time those moments on the other side of that risk is the most colorful part of my whole life. You know, the most colorful moments. The biggest burst of beauty. You know, we're on the other side of that scary risk of that time where you're like, I don't know, like this could go bad.
And to add to that, like I had a conversation with a friend and they were like kind of saying, they're like, dude, you've had so many different lives. Like, I can't believe you're not afraid to fail kind of thing. And I was like, cool, thank you. Like, I guess I wouldn't have thought of it like that. But yes, I've done a couple changes and pivots.
Right.
But I think the regret and the thing of we can talk about risks and we can be aware of this. And so much of what we talk about is that something that I have to remind myself of. And my counterpoint to that conversation with the friend was, yes, in hindsight, it's easy to say that. But my regret is the amount of time it's taken to have the courage to take those risks.
Yeah.
I think that in my heart and soul, I knew some of those pivots needed to happen. And I took up to like a year before doing it too long. And now in hindsight, we talk about how colorful and rewarding it is when you do it. The thing we don't have is time. And time becomes so valuable. Yes. So the thing that I try to remind myself now is to have that grit and that courage that when you know something in your heart, to not think about it and to not lose that time and to give yourself more credit. And I would be remiss if I didn't say that in the podcast, because I think, as I told you my story, again, the last thing that I'd want is for my story to sound like I had it all figured out, because there was so much fucking turmoil. And it's not like I'm at the top now. It's not like I'm like, now I can say this. Like, bro, we are forever going to have the conversation
still in
we're
turmoil.
having. We're still, and
still
forever.
Happening.
And like, if we sit down again on part 2, who knows what evolution of both your and my career is there. Like, it will always be changing, but I think that that's something that I'm very aware of, and I don't want it to sound like that isn't a thing.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you clarified that, because it sounds, there's a way to say any story with a rosy tint to it.
Yes.
There's, and in a lot of ways, the way we recount it and the way we remember it automatically has that going for it, just for the reasons we've kind of discussed. And yeah, that's just a natural way for a human to deliver their story. They're not going to be like, yeah, and then this really sucked ass.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it fits in, but it's like, I think that it's a good clarifier, because I think that part of, this podcast and your podcast really is diving into like the real world elements that are involved in this stuff.
Yeah.
And although I think kids have like a much better idea of how to get somewhere now than they ever did when we were kids, like I had no clue like how to book a tour. I would have wished there was a podcast then so that I could listen to a podcast, somebody saying, all right, so this is what you do. I had no idea.
Yeah.
There's no role model. There was nothing to tap into. The internet was in its infancy, like, et cetera. The kids now have a better idea, but there's still need for this education of like what happened to people and their journey, and like kind of like what to expect / what to know, that like it's okay to stumble. It's okay to not have it figured out. It's but please do try.
Yes.
Please do risk.
Oh my God.
Please do not sacrifice 7 years of being miserable to make a decision you should have made 6 years before.
Yes.
Please.
Be courageous enough. Take the courage from other people. Borrow that courage when you need that blind faith, and take that leap and go try the thing. For me, be less conservative about like money and things like this. Like, be willing to roll the dice and go to zero. Because every time it's gotten better when I've done that. And I've sat in fucking miserable situations for too long when I've just been thinking about it.
And you're just like thinking, like sitting like on your proverbial last $500, thinking there's no way I could invest in this right now because I just don't have the money. And if I did, I wouldn't, I don't want to get into debt and I don't really know what to do. And it's like, hold on, like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Do you want to do it?
Yeah.
Do you believe in it?
Yeah.
Whatever the shortfall is here isn't large enough.
Bro, and people can feel that. Like, life has a way of like, when you are down to zero and somebody meets, like, Gordy's on zero because he believes in doing this thing so much. And that story comes up and someone's like, let me help you. I know this investor.
Or do
the
you need work?
The universe.
Like, okay, I got you.
Yeah. The universe rewards that shit so heavy.
Every time.
I remember your podcast, you had this beautiful thing where you were talking about like, you refused to work another job that wasn't creative, right?
Yeah.
And you were like, I will go to fucking zero. I will go to couches. I will then go to sleeping in cars. Like, I'm not fucking doing this again.
Compromise.
And like that, like shit like that inspires me so much.
Yeah. Because it's a sort of the frame of mind that you need to approach it with. Because if you let yourself get into this like zone of like questioning if you're gonna be okay or if it's gonna be worth it or whatever it is, it's like it's a downward spiral all the way down to the bottom. So like, don't do that. just do it. Take the risk. It's going to be okay. I mean, this podcast was a huge thing, you know, just like with any of this stuff, it's like shit costs money.
Yeah.
Duh. Am I running everything very tight right now? Yes. But I tweeted this the other day. I was like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I just keep doubling down. I don't know.
That's so good.
No idea. But every time it gets to this place where I'm like, what's going to happen here? I'm like, double the bet. Double the bet. What's the next turn card? Double it. You know,
dude.
like, yeah.
I need that energy in my life. You know, like we're talking about it, but it's like it's so much easier to say it than to do it, and
because it's so scary.
You're a great example of doing it, though, and it's really beautiful to like see it happen.
Yeah.
And
it's one thing saying like, oh yeah, like I did it. You know, like you could do it too, and then actually doing it.
Yeah,
because it's so scary, dude. Like I'm still in these positions where it's like. You know, you work hard for something and then you just go for it. And and there's just really no way that it can't work out if you go for it.
Yeah.
Just go for it. Yeah. And like, if you commit to it, you're good.
Yeah.
Period. Just like this space was like that. Like I had no idea how I was going to come up with this extra amount of money. Like the delta of what I needed that I didn't have was like over $1,000 a month for this place where I was like, I need to figure out how to make another $1,000 on top of what I'm already doing in order to make sure that I can pay for just the space.
Yeah.
And that's not equipment and that's not utilities and that's not.
It's just a square box of a room.
It's a box.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and it was like the first few months of being in here, it was one IKEA desk, one chair, one computer, and a box of stuff.
Dude.
No plants.
Dude.
No Fiji water.
No Fiji water. Now he has Fiji water. Dude, this, man.
Yeah, man.
It's inspiring. It's cool. We got to get down there and start yelling.
They're
with
really
them,
practicing
man.
yelling down there.
Yeah.
I wonder if you guys can hear that on the pod. It's wow. It's almost like half a sing.
I know, right? Is
that a kid?
I'm not sure.
Wow, crazy.
Yeah, just LA.
Well, I appreciate all of your sort of like insights on this stuff because, like I said, I think that this is an underspoken about thing because it really has to do with being vulnerable.
Yeah.
And like, that's why I kind of like akined it a little to like therapy earlier because it's like you know, get into this place professionally where it's not okay to like start talking about how you're scared.
Yeah.
It's not okay to start talking about how you don't know if it's going to work out. It's like all these insecurities that you put inside of you.
Yeah.
You know, and like, Hunter, who was on the other day, which I do believe you know Hunter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yeah. He said something, I haven't watched the whole pod yet, but said something like, I was feeling really creatively depressed or something to that effect. And I just didn't say anything to anyone. And I didn't really know who to talk to. And I just sort of kept it inside and I didn't know what to do with it. And I was like, how many other people are experiencing like feeling like an imposter who shouldn't be, who are gnarly at what they do and don't feel gnarly at what they do.
Yeah.
And who are just sitting with this weird feeling inside like they don't fit in because, you know, he's like, I don't post my work enough on IG and all these other photographers here again. Yeah. It's like this like stigma that like we have to treat this like it's a 9-to-5 business and like I'm at the behest of my 7,900 Instagram followers or whatever. Like,
exactly.
That half those people don't know me.
Right.
And on top of that, they don't care.
Yeah.
If I post.
Nobody fucking cares.
Don't care. They only care if you do.
Yeah.
But if you don't, no one's come to my door and say, hey, you only post like 12 times a year. I'm like, never. No one's ever said that. Whenever anyone's like, I'm taking a break from Instagram just so all my followers know. And I'm like, no one cares.
Nobody cares.
No offense, Martha or whatever. No one fucking cares.
No.
And it's not to say that no one cares about you. Mm-hmm. No one cares about anyone who's taking a break of Instagram or who hasn't posted in a while.
I mean, that comes back, like I could conclude with this of like the lesson that I learn of LA and life is like, you kind of have survival and happiness. And first you have to figure out survival. Like, you know, you got to pay your bills. You got to make sure you have a roof and food.
Yes.
And then you focus on happiness. And that's pretty much life consolidated, I think. But I think LA, and I think that like this time in our lives of like young creative professionals and figuring these things out, like survival is the top priority. And you got a lot of work to do there and a lot of figuring out. And then not so much happiness, but like people think that everyone else is paying so much attention where it's like people are just focused on surviving.
Yeah.
So don't take offense to it either way.
It's a good point.
Nobody saw your post. That doesn't mean that your work is bad. That just means that they're out there trying to survive. You're trying to survive too. That's fine. And I think like you grow, and I think that that's a beautiful place in life to get to when your survival is dialed, and you can take a second to help your fellow out, and you can take a second to add further and help more.
Yeah.
But don't take other people trying to survive personally, because they're not noticing you doesn't mean anything. They're literally just trying to survive.
That's an amazing way to put that.
Yeah.
That fucked me up a little because like that is it.
Yeah.
And
like,
actually, you know, the funny thing is I think we are kind of like reaching a little conclusion here. I was going to ask you like, you know, like what's your like, what's your final take on whatever? Like what advice do you have for anybody? And I feel like we've really like covered a lot of advice. I feel like
I think so.
What you just said right there is like such a key piece of advice to like impart on anybody, no matter if you're creative or a like whatever you're into.
Yeah.
You know, like I think that this show gravitates towards creatives and entrepreneurs and people who are, you know, in that world.
Yeah.
My mom always is like, you know, your dad isn't an artist. It's weird that, you know, she always makes some crack at him. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
This man's a creative.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see it the same way. You know, he's a financial analyst at a company. He does things, his playlist curation is money. Like his like cooking is fire.
Yeah.
He is a creative, and he does have, there's sort of like a overlap. And I guess what I mean, or how I'm folding that in is that I just feel like you hit it with that last thing you said for anyone.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be like some whatever.
It's the combination of that.
Mm-hmm.
But like my conclusion and the thing that I always need to remind myself, it's a couple of things, but enjoy the process for sure.
Major.
You know, really, really enjoy it. I can be way too tunnel vision. I can be way too focused on the end goal and forget to check in with my friends and forget to just pop up on the roof on a nice day or some random view of nature and just look at shit and enjoy it and all of it, to take a step back and look at the spaces that homies are creating. Like that is a huge one. Don't go too tunnel vision. Don't forget about the people around you that you love. I think I've done that. Taking myself a little too seriously has been bad. Doing the thing. Like I remember when I was the most miserable with this one consulting job, and it was good money. And it was like the first time I felt I had stability out in LA, and I fucking hated it. And I talked to a friend, and he was basically like, he attributed it to a video game. He's like, you're in level 1 and you're collecting the potions and the resources and you're fighting like the little like the characters that are easy to beat. He's like, you have to go fight the boss, and you're going to lose potions and you're going to lose resource and you're going to lose health. Wow. After you fight that boss, you're going to level up. And then the levels after that are going to be better.
Wow.
And for me, quitting that job or that side income, because I fucking hated it and because it was distracting me from the shit I did care about, was fighting that boss. Wow. And everything got better after I did that. Everything. It always comes back to like, say the shit you want to say, do the shit you want to do, ask the questions you want to ask, hit up the people that you think are too cool and compliment them. Like the reservation, that self-doubt, that thing that stops you, I am the worst victim of it. Like, fuck, do I have it? But the way when I don't have it, I'm the best. And I just want to be the example of like, trust me, I fucking have it. I'm the most conservative person you've ever met. I'm the most reserved, shy. I don't want to do this, but I'm going to go do it. And every time when I've done it, I'm on top of the world and the most magic stuff opens up. So if I could impart any wisdom on anyone, it's just like, fuck, if I can get past it, you can too, but you need to. You fucking need to, or you're going to get stuck. You're going to get stuck in level 1. That's it. That's what I got.
Wow. I couldn't have asked for a better summation of your ethos. That was beautiful. Thank you so much for coming back, doing round 2, technically round 3. This is, I didn't give it any prep, any front end or anything like this, but this is the very first episode of the Gold Couch podcast hosted by Studio Paralo.
What a fucking honor.
Gordy, and Andrew, you're just such a fantastic human. Thank you.
Dude, thank you. And I guess to conclude on my side, I'll air it on Where Are All My Friends too.
Yes.
So if you're hearing this episode on Where Are All My Friends, go instantly hit subscribe, what is the current, you should subscribe on YouTube. You can subscribe on Apple and Spotify. I think you have to listen on Spotify for a couple episodes to then rate it 5 stars. Basically, if you fuck with Where Are All My Friends and you're here at the end of this, you finally got your Andrew episode and it was an honor. And I think you killed it. And now you have a second podcast you need to listen to every week. Listen to this man.
Oh man, thank you so much for that. Your podcast inspired me so much. So it's only right that, you help a little bird fly.
Dude, I mean, again, I hadn't done the Andrew interview in a long time and this felt right. So hopefully I didn't talk too much. That was really weird when I was like,
when you were going and I was listening and you were like, why am I talking?
Yeah, it was weird, dude. I don't know. I didn't like it. I was like, this is too much. I didn't ask any questions. Yeah, but thank you for giving me the space.
Beautiful work and
tell the story.
Oh, dude. So many people want to know. Love you.
Love you.
Tune in next time. Peace.